Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel, and we're going to have some fighting words. But before we go any further, you know the routine. I need for you to like this video and also subscribe to my channel. So we had the fight over the weekend. I think it's safe to say that Lomachenko is back. Vasyl Lomachenko is back. He had an arsenal of tricks. He had an arsenal of traps, and there was nothing that Richard Commey could do. It was just like, from round one, there was nothing he could do. He tried, and he gets an A for effort, but there was nothing he could do. I mean, he was hitting him, like I said, he was hitting him from all angles, and I also said this fight would be a gauge to see. Now, granted, Teofimo Lopez did beat Richard Commey, so I know the controversy will be there. Well, that doesn't say much if Lomachenko could beat Richard Commey because, well, Teofimo beat Richard Commey. True, he did. However, the main thing that I was looking at was to see a two-handed Lomachenko. Lomachenko who's fully recovered, has both of his arms fully functioning, fully working, and we saw that. And we saw an arsenal of tricks. We saw everything in the bag. I don't believe everything in the bag, but we saw a lot of things just pop out that bag. And I think even you can tell, number one, that Lomachenko was having fun, but also number two, I think it seemed as if he wanted to see what's the range of what I could do. You know, I mean, granted, I'm pretty sure he tried things in training camp and in sparring, but there's nothing like the real thing. There's nothing like being in an actual fight and actually pulling these things off without headgear and, you know, massive gloves on and all that stuff. You know, and also somebody in the ring who may not even be on your level. So when you get somebody who's top notch, you get somebody, you know, like Richard Commey, he was dangerous. Like, you got to say what we got to say. The man was dangerous. He's got 27 knockouts on his record, so he's no walk in the park, and he's always going to be dangerous. And you can also tell during the end of the fight, he was looking for that punch because there was nothing else he could do. That's the one great thing that punchers have: the punch, that big punch. Worst case scenario, you find yourself in trouble, punch. If your back is against the wall, you punch. If you're low on points, you punch. You know, so that's that one thing that every puncher has just in the back of their mind. Worst case scenario, I'm going to resort to doing what I do best, and I'm going to knock something down. I'm going to knock somebody out. Lomachenko got a knockdown, and like I said, you know, he doesn't have the most punching power in the world, but when you're jumping from angle to angle and your opponent doesn't know what side you're going to be on, and you got punches coming from here, you got punches coming from there, you don't know where they're coming from, and then you turn around and it's just there, you fall down from it. It also showed, you know, like I really like that Lomachenko, he was looking out for Richard Commey. You could see there was no bad blood or anything like that. You know, they were smiling during the press conference. They shook hands and hugged, you know, at the weigh-in. So it was nothing, you know, it was just pure sportsmanship and pure competitorship that was going on from, you know, the time that they signed on to do the fight until the actual fight. And Lomachenko, once he clearly sees that Richard Commey's hurt, and everybody can clearly see that he's hurt. And he's looking at the corner like, are you gonna do something? You want me to hurt the man? He's your guy. Like, he's not my guy, he's your guy. You want me to hurt him? I could hurt him. You know, and he's pointing at him, and they're looking at it like, hey, bro, like, do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. Now, we can look at that in two ways. I do believe that's one of the reasons why, you know, fighters lose their lives and get severely damaged in fights. Because you have a situation like that where a guy is clearly rocked, a guy is clearly hurt, and then you just so happen to have, which is very rare, a compassionate fighter on the other end, where it's just like, you know what, I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit, and I'm gonna allow you to do what you should do, step in. I'm gonna allow the referee to step in. I'm gonna allow the corner to step in. I'm gonna allow somebody to do something, because it's not my call. My call is to keep going. That's my call. It's your call to say, my guy has had enough. It's the ref's call to say, this guy has had enough. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, sometimes fighters don't walk out of the ring, to be honest with you. Now, on the flip side of that, I would say, you know your guy. You know what your guy is capable of. You know what your guy is capable of pulling through. You know what your training camp was like. You know him personally. You know what he's been through. You know the amount of stress and strain he can take on his body. Which is fair to an extent. It's fair. But at the same time, you don't want to risk it. You don't want to risk it. I think that was great sportsmanship of Lomachenko. And you can tell he just kind of let up off the gas. I mean, by that time, he was so far up on the scorecard, it didn't really matter if he knocked him out or not. I mean, honestly. Like Lomachenko took a lot of time off, like, during that fight, or especially after that knockdown. It was just like, okay, like, you're not going to save him. I'm going to look out for him. It's not like he's going to win. It's not like he's going to get past me. It's not like he's going to drop that big, a right hand or something on me. So at this point, I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. I'm still going to look good. I'm still going to embarrass him, but I'm not going to hurt him. And, kudos to Lomachenko for that. Now, again, do I think that this was the hardest test? No, I don't think it was the hardest test. I think it was a good test because he dealt with a puncher, and he dealt with a guy who was taller. He dealt with a guy who had longer arms. He dealt with a guy who was, on paper, very, very dangerous. Contrary to how many people might know of Richard Commey, look at his record. He had 27 knockouts out of like 30-something fights. He's dangerous, and he can put you in some real hurt. And he can give you some real hurt, and he can put you in some real trouble. So you can't overlook the fact that he's got that in his arsenal, and he's got that in him, and he was looking for that knockout. Credit to Richard Commey because he never stopped believing that he could win the fight. He never stopped coming forward. Again, the fight breakdown. I said one thing you can't do with Lomachenko is stand there, and that's what Richard Commey did. He stood there. I also said Richard Commey can't afford to throw those looping shots, and that's exactly what he did. He threw those looping shots. I also said what was going to be an effective weapon for Lomachenko was going to be that uppercut, and that was an effective weapon for him. You know why? Because Richard Commey throws looping shots. So it's not going to be a hard case for Lomachenko to do anything with. Richard Commey also has a wide stance. Lomachenko bounces around like a butterfly, so it's not going to be a problem for him. If anything, it's going to work in his favor, and that's exactly what it did. It worked in his favor. Now, one thing that I wish Richard Commey would have tried more of was the body shots. The body shots, I believe Lomachenko masked it well, but you can tell it hurt him when Richard Commey would commit to those body shots. And for some reason, he would use it here, he'd use it there, but he wasn't like fully committed to it. He also wasn't fully committed to his jab. Anybody who fights Lomachenko had better work on their jab. You had better work on your jab. It's going to be your bread and butter, and you're going to live and die by it. Work on your jab. If you don't work on your jab, I'm not saying you're going to lose, but I'm definitely not saying you're going to win if you don't work on your jab with Lomachenko. You need to work on your body shots because that's the only way you're going to slow him down. You're talking about a guy who's bouncing from here to there, and he's constantly switching stances. He's constantly changing angles. You need to slow him down, so those body shots are going to do that. But also, those jabs are going to keep him busy. You need something to keep him busy because if not, he's going to find his own way to keep busy. And his own way to keep busy is him jumping around and setting traps for you. You're going to walk right into him. So that's exactly what happened. I mean, granted, skills pay the bills, and it was an absolute clinic in terms of skills. And it was beautiful to watch, as always. Lomachenko is the man, and I don't care who disagrees or not. There's no way you cannot say that man is not gifted in the art of combat. He may not have the most punching power or anything like that, but my goodness, I think it evens out, because if he did have punching power, it would be frightening that he could do all those things and then he could put you out with one punch. But now, after the fight, Lomachenko's like, oh, I want to fight George Kambosos. Listen, I'm not mad at that. I think star power, he might just get his wish. Star power, he might just get his wish. So George Kambosos, like probably a week or two prior, mentioned Lomachenko, and he was saying that he would like to fight him. You know, because if you're going to test yourself, you need to test yourself with like, and I believe George Kambosos is all about, you know, I want to go down as one of the best when it's all said and done. He's one of those guys. I don't believe it's all about money with him. I think it's about money when he talks to certain guys. Like, because he was talking to Devin Haney, it just sounded like a money fight, or let's talk about money. But when you're talking about Lomachenko, well, you're going to make money because you're fighting Lomachenko, especially if you fight Lomachenko in New York. I mean, there's a lot of Ukrainians in New York, so it just makes a whole lot of sense. But it's also, look at that man's record. If you really are honest with yourself and you really want to gauge how good you really are, you'd want to fight Lomachenko. Now, again, I don't know what's going to happen. You did shake Devin Haney's hand. You guys had a verbal agreement, and it was face-to-face. I don't know. I mean, Lomachenko did just fight. Granted, Lomachenko didn't get hurt at all, but Lomachenko did just fight. And if I was Lomachenko, I would just say, you know what? You two go fight, and you unify this thing, and I'll fight the winner. Because I'm pretty sure Devin Haney would fight Lomachenko. You know, again, that's a nice money fight. You know, I don't see any reason why Devin Haney or George Kambosos would say no to a Lomachenko fight. No reason. You know, do I think that Lomachenko is bringing in as much as Tank? No, I don't. But I don't see anybody turning it down a Lomachenko fight. That would be kind of silly, especially if you're fighting Lomachenko in New York. He has a big fan base there, so I don't foresee that. But it's going to be interesting how this thing plays out. You know, technically, there's no real politics in this, because if George Kambosos were to fight Devin Haney, where then they unify and Devin Haney's undefeated, George Kambosos is undefeated, so we can't be mad with that fight. But then again, let's just say George Kambosos fights Lomachenko. We can't really be mad with that fight. It's freaking Lomachenko. I don't care if he has a belt to bring to the table. It's Lomachenko. Come on. So nobody's going to be mad at that fight either. So I don't know. I'm waiting to hear, you know, what's going to happen in the weeks to come, because I'm pretty sure guys are going to have to sit down and talk, and, you know, where are we going to do this thing? I do know that George Kambosos, when he fights next, he keeps talking about going back to Australia. So we'll have to wait and see. But those are my thoughts. I want to know what you have to say down below. And you know the routine. Please like and please subscribe.